This is Terry Battisti with the Bass Fishing Archives, and I'm sitting here with classic contender Kevin Short. We're going to talk about how Kevin got to the point to where he decided that he was going to make bass fishing his line of work. So, Kevin?
You know, Terry, I don't know that I ever really sat down and thought, you know, this is something that I'd like to do for, for a living.
Right.
It was kind of a progression
right.
for me. It really was. I have an older brother that actually I fished my very first tournament with back in probably the late 80s, probably 87, 88, somewhere along in there.
Right.
Just a little 3-hour Tuesday evening,
Coffee pot.
Yeah, just a little jackpot, as a weekly thing, and I think we finished like first out of the money or something. Yeah. But it was, it was the whole, and I'm a guy that, we grew up fishing. The whole family fished.
Right.
Dad used to take, he had 4 boys and a girl. Okay, and all 4 of the boys fished. Because it was always a big fight over who was going to get to go fishing. And of course,
right.
he couldn't take my 2 older brothers together because they would fight constantly. Okay, he always made time to take us fishing. So I grew up, and we fished for bass, for crappie, for bluegill, whatever. Didn't really matter. So fishing's something that I've always done. But fishing that first tournament with my older brother was kind of like, this is pretty cool. This is a lot of fun. At the time I had a decent job, but man, I didn't have money to buy a boat or anything like that.
Right.
It really was. It was probably the early '90s, somewhere along around '92, '93. That I actually, saved up enough money to buy my first used, my first boat. I'd always used my dad's or whatever, but I bought a used boat then and started kind of fishing all the local lakes there, that I'd fished for years and years.
What did you do for work at that time?
At that time, I worked for Farm Bureau there in Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
And I had, a really good job, and enough time off, that I could fish, every weekend, and it just kind of progressed from there. And I actually bought my first new boat. Never been in the water, new boat in '95. Uh-huh. And in that year, I thought, I'm gonna start fishing some tournaments. So I started fishing some team stuff with one of the guys that I worked with there at Farm Bureau, and my wife Carrie and I actually started fishing a lot of the couples tournaments the next year. And she is a very competitive person.
Yeah.
She always has been. She swam competitively for years, and she's as much as anything, she probably kind of pushed me to just to see how far we could go with this.
Right.
So from fishing team stuff, I went to fishing, what was then Redman.
Yeah.
And there's a circuit there in Arkansas called Mr. Bass that's been around for 40 years now.
Yep.
Fished those, and the very first year that I fished it, I won a tournament, finished second in another tournament, and 2 other tournaments, and third in another. I just smoked them the whole year.
Uh-huh.
And that that really kind of got me fired up.
Right.
And from there I fished Ever Starts, Opens, everything that I could fish, and just really work my way up.
Right.
And I think the first year that I qualified for what was then the Bassmaster Tour was 2002 for like the '03 season. But I didn't have the money, I didn't have the time off from work to take off for 6 weeks.
Right.
I couldn't do that. And I told Carrie then, and at the time, Farm Bureau was actually sponsoring me a little bit, and I sat down with them. I said, look, this is what I want to do. If I, when I qualify for this again, I want to be able to fish the Bassmaster Tour. And they're like, fine. I talked to Carrie, and she's like, hey, do it. So
you got work back in you. You got back in It's like a no-brainer.
The next year, in '03, I qualified. Won one of the opens, which gave me the money.
Yep.
Okay, and qualified in the points to fish the tour in 2004, and it was like, okay, here we go. But there never was a master plan there that's like,
Right.
okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to get there.
Yeah.
I mean, we just basically took off down the road.
Yep.
And just, whichever way it went, hey, that's the way that we went.
Yep.
So that's it. And it's worked out really well.
Moment or one tournament that was really said that, yeah, Kevin Short belongs in the professional bass fishing arena?
Probably that Open win in 2003, because that was a tournament. That was one of the last years that pretty much everybody that was anybody fished the Opens.
Yeah.
I mean, in that field, we had, Rick Clunn, Edwin Evers was there. I think, Gary Klein was there. I know Garrett from Arkansas. God, I can't believe.
Yeah, he only won it.
I can't think. He won 2 megabucks.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I just can't think of
He was in it. McClellan was. I mean, it was like all the sticks.
Right.
You had Jeff McGee that lived down there. I mean, it was like, I'm sitting there looking at last day at the weigh-in. I'm looking around going, wow, if I can beat this crowd. And and then in that tournament, I just didn't beat them. I smoked them. Yeah. I just kind of creeped up on them. And the last day, it was like, put the hammer down and just crushed them, So I'm looking around going, this, I might be able to make this work. So, yeah, that was probably the aha moment.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for spending some time with us.
No problem, Terry. Thank you.
Kick some butts this weekend.
I'm going to. Looking forward to it. All right, bud. Thank you.